Welcome to the Roundtable Perspective. I'm your host, Tom Roach, and I'm joined today by my guest, Dr. Marc Milne. He is a professor at the University of Indianapolis in the biology department. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Milne published two co-authored articles last year on a spider that he was looking for in Appalachia, and I want to start by asking him what brought him to Appalachia and what did he find?
Well, my work in Appalachia was really due to the amazing work of my co-author, Dr. Marshall Hadeen, who did decades of work in the region with his students as well to look and study these cave spiders in the region. And so I was also starting to look into those types of spiders, and so he thought to brought me on, and we both looked at them together.
Interesting. This is totally new to me. Why would it take that much time to study spiders? What exactly goes on in those caves?
Well, some are caves, but a lot of them are even above ground too. And so a lot of these spiders have been speciating for millions of years. And because southern Appalachia has not been glaciated recently, there's a lot of areas that have spiders within them that are different than other spiders.
And when you say recently, you don't mean last week?
No, yeah. So glaciation, the most recent one was about 12,000 years ago.
Okay, so that's a while back.
Yeah.
And so do you find, you're finding new species then?
Yeah, we found 10 new species of this genus Nesticus in southern Appalachia.
And tell us about this genus Nesticus.
So Nesticus spiders are cave and karst spiders that oftentimes like to live in habitats that are moist and humid, especially in these rocky regions in the southern Appalachians. The species we found, some of them are called short-range endemics, where they only exist in a very small region in this area, and they exist nowhere else in the world. And some of these are within caves, where some spiders in Nesticus are known from only a single cave in the world, and it's here in southern Appalachia.
Interesting. And so what are they like? What's unique about these spiders?
These spiders are oftentimes adapted to environments that a lot of other spiders cannot live in, these hot, humid environments that have high moisture levels. They are also called, they have a comb foot on them, so they're called comb-footed spiders. And they build a sort of messy type of web, and they catch arthropods, and they live in lots of these weird cave environments.
So describe this web. I think I know what you're talking about. Is this kind of the spiral-looking web?
No, so the spiral-looking web is an orb web. That is often the beautiful Charlotte's web that you think of is an orb weaver. These are actually spiders that more akin to building some kind of hackily random type of web that isn't very pretty to our eyes, but it gets the job done for them.
And that has an impact on the ecosystem, I understand.
Absolutely. So these are very important predators of insects, and they keep insect levels quite low. They're also prey to larger organisms like birds that often prey on them.
If they weren't there, would it matter?
It would matter, yeah.
Yes.
If these spiders weren't there, it would matter very much because insect levels will get very high, and also predators such as birds would not have any prey to eat. They'd have to eat other things such as insects, and oftentimes a lot of bird species specialize on spiders, and so if they no longer have those spiders to eat, they would also decline in number.
The spiders themselves, they have a certain habitat that they live in, other than it's a cave and it's moist and they make a messy web. What else is their environment like? What do you look for when you're looking for them, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, looking for these spiders can be difficult because oftentimes if they're not in caves, they're in these very rocky habitats where oftentimes there's piles of rocks, and you have to go climb on these rocks and then flip them over and look between crevices to try to find them. So it can be difficult.
I'm picturing you going through the cave and a flashlight and a magnifying glass. How does this take place?
Yeah, when we're looking for the spiders that are in caves, we do go in with a helmet and a light, and oftentimes we have a glove, and we have gloves, and we have certain outfits where we know it's going to get very, very dirty and very muddy, and we go in there and we're crawling through crevices, and we are sometimes wading through water and eventually getting to these rooms where we can examine the spiders and find them.
Yeah, I don't think I want that job.
Not many people do.
Is there some danger involved in this?
No, there's very little danger to looking for spiders and when looking in caves.
And how big are they?
It depends on which type of spider you're looking for.
I mean, this one we're talking about.
These Nesticus are probably about a centimeter in size.
I see. And they don't, they're not poisonous or anything like that?
They're venomous if you're a very tiny insect, but for us, they're pretty much going to be harmless.
And do most spiders have venom? Is that part of their?
Yes, almost all spiders have venom. And so there are only a few families of spiders that lack venom, but almost all spiders, when they have venom and they use that venom, it is largely only dangerous to the insect prey that they're consuming.
So it's a specialized venom.
Very specialized.
But some spiders can be very harmful to humans, right?
Yes, that is true. There are some spiders that are harmful to humans, though they are usually very reluctant to bite. And
you don't go looking for those, I'm assuming, too, right?
I have found them in the field before, but it's not like I study those specifically, no. Usually these spiders, their last defense is to bite. The vast majority of the time, they're going to be running away.
So what are the ecological dynamics of spider populations? What goes on around them?
So spider populations often fluctuate with insect populations because insect populations are their main prey. Yeah. And so spider populations are going to fluctuate with those insects as well.
And so the prey of the spider, is it the size of the spider? Is it taking down larger insects?
It can, yeah. A lot of spiders specialize on certain types of insect prey. So for example, there are spiders called funnel weaving spiders that build a funnel into a leaf or into an edge of a grassy field, and then they'll have this large sheet that they spread out and they make with their spinnerets. And then they specialize on jumping prey like crickets and grasshoppers. So they'll wait in their funnel for a cricket to hop onto the sheet, and then they run out and grab it and then pull it back into the funnel.
So I've seen these funnels. I bet we all have, right?
Yeah, it's very common.
So the spider isn't expecting somebody to fall into the funnel hole.
No, absolutely not.
The spider's hiding in the funnel hole.
Yeah, the spider's very, very scared of anything larger than itself usually, because it doesn't want to be preyed upon by birds or any other large organism.
Right. So, I mean, how much bigger is the prey potentially?
Sometimes spiders can prey on insects and even birds and other mammals that are much larger than them, sometimes even snakes.
Oh, really?
But this is very rare. Yeah.
See, I think it would be good if we could get the spiders and the snakes to kill one another. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Well, both of those organisms are very important for our ecosystem.
They are. Okay. All right. I'll leave them alone. While we're on that, what about lost species? I know you're looking for new species, but there are also some species that have kind of disappeared that you're hoping to rediscover, right?
Yeah, so a lot of spiders have been described hundreds of years ago, maybe 100 years ago, or say many decades ago, and then never seen again. And so these are called lost species, species that were described, and then nobody has since found them again to either redescribe them or to describe them further. And so we call these lost species, and there are many throughout North America and the world.
Are there subtle variations that exist within a species, or is any kind of a variation make something a different species?
Yeah, so there's a lot of variation that makes a species different than others. And so oftentimes in arachnology, where we're studying arachnids, we generally look at very distinct morphological characters, basically the physical characteristics, and we try to differentiate spiders based on different physical characteristics.
So I know one of these spiders was last seen in 1908, and another one in 1923, I guess, right?
Yes. Yeah. So those are some of my white whales, as it were. The ones that I have never caught, but I would really wish to catch. Hopefully I don't die in the process, you know. So, so 1908, Myrmechiaphila flavipes is a spider actually from southern Indiana that was discovered and described. So that's, 115 years ago or so, and never seen again. And so as somebody who works in central Indiana, I'm trying to locate this spider with a good friend of mine, Dr. Sergio Henriquez, who works at the Indianapolis Zoo. He's also a specialist in trapdoor spiders. Him and I are trying to go look for this spider that is a lost species, hasn't been seen in over 100 years, and we've looked many times. Fingers crossed we find it soon.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned a trapdoor spider.
That's what it is. It's a trapdoor spider.
And how does this trapdoor thing work?
So basically, it's a burrowing spider, and it burrows into muddy banks, and then it will close a little trapdoor over its burrow, and then at night, it pushes the burrow open very slightly, and it has little trip lines or trip wires of silk leading out, and then it'll wait for something to hit that little trip wire, and then it comes out and grabs it and goes
That's
back.
amazingly complicated for something that's that small.
Yes,
do
it
they have
is.
like a Boy Scout handbook that teaches them how to do this?
They should, I think, yeah.
That's rough. And then there's another one that only one specimen was ever captured.
Yes, so this is one that's close to my heart because I'd really like to work on this genus that this spider belongs in, and I have all the other species collected, and I'm just missing this one piece of the puzzle, and that is Goniatara eranestes. Hasn't been seen since 1923 in southern Virginia when it was collected.
And they only saw one.
They only saw one male, and that is it. We don't even know what the female looks like. We just have one male from over 100 years ago, and what we think is I think that it's a prairie specialist. And a lot of the prairie in North Carolina and South Carolina and Virginia has now been wiped out and destroyed by humans for development. And so because we lost the Piedmont prairie, we also likely lost a lot of these species that went along with it.
Because some of them are just spread out over a very small area.
Yes, yeah. Some of these species, just like the Nesticus spiders, are short-range endemics, and they only exist in a small range.
Yeah. Now, some are spread out around the world, though, right?
That is true. There are some spiders that have a very large range.
And they can travel across oceans.
They can, yeah. Some spiders, especially sheet web weaving spiders, are especially adept at traveling long ranges because they can do something called ballooning, and where this tiny spider will crawl up to the top of a plant and then let out a line of silk and wait for the wind to come, and the wind will pick the whole spider up along with the silk and carry it away.
They're really smarter than we are, aren't they?
They're quite brilliant.
I couldn't do any of that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and Darwin mentioned that spider, right?
Yeah, so Darwin, when he was on the Beagle, he was traveling around the world on his famous journey in the early 1800s, and he wrote about small spiders landing on the deck of his ship that had ballooned across the ocean.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we talked about the caves, right? But I understand that mountains are really important for spiders and biodiversity as well.
Yes, mountains are quite important as well, especially really old mountains like the Appalachian Mountains.
And what goes on at a mountain? I understand that there's an upside and a downside for drafts and warm sides and cool sides, and
Yes.
How does all that work together?
Yeah, so a lot of spiders are specialized on habitats at a specific altitude. And so, for example, I'm working right now with Dr. Michael Caterino at Clemson University to look at spiders in very high elevations in Appalachian Mountains, where we're finding spiders that only exist, say, above 5,000 or even 6,000 feet in altitude, and then they exist nowhere else in the lowlands.
Because they couldn't exist anywhere else, or?
Right, they are adapted to these specific altitudes, temperature, humidity, pressure, things like that at these very high altitudes. The problem with that for these spiders is that as climate change occurs and starts to get warmer and warmer, we predict that a lot of these spiders are going to move higher in altitude because it's going to be colder as they move up, but eventually they're going to run out of mountain. They're going to run out of peak, and that's when extinctions may occur.
And of course, this isn't in your timeline here, when you say recently, right? This isn't the first time that we've had significant climate change in the history of the planet.
Right.
So in the past, did we lose a lot of our biodiversity when the planet warmed up and cooled down?
Yeah, so we did. And in the past 500 million years, we've had 5 major mass extinctions that have occurred on Earth that have wiped out a lot of species on Earth. And a lot of those were due to massive climate change, either due to volcanic eruptions or due to an asteroid striking the Earth and causing great wide climate change. But in any of those instances with climate change, we had mass extinctions of species, and we can expect no less with this climate change that we're occurring right now, or causing right now.
But over that long period of time, new species developed that were better adapted to the environment, I take it, right?
Yes, better, or I should say other species did adapt to those
Yeah.
conditions and eventually re-diversify and go through something called adaptive radiation, where a few number of species diversified and sort of exploded in this speciation event and become lots and lots and lots of species. Okay. And that often happens after a mass extinction wipes out many species, and there's lots of these open, empty niches and empty environments where a lot of these other survivors can exploit.
So what we're talking about now is a bigger picture issue. This is how the environment reacts to dramatic changes.
Yeah.
How important are spiders in that role?
Well, spiders, like any other organism, are just a big piece of the puzzle. And so as you start taking away these pieces of the puzzle, it becomes harder and harder to put the whole system together and have it function as a whole. And so like any other type of organism, in fact, maybe even more for spiders, they're very important to keep organisms in their ecosystem place, basically within their food webs and acting as they naturally do.
Is it true that their role in all of this is that they kind of eliminate other insects? They keep insect populations down because they prey on them?
They do keep insect populations down. They're critical in, for example, for humans, they're quite important in that they control pest species. So there are no spiders that cause disease, but spiders prey on insects that do cause disease, that are vectors for us.
I'm starting to like spiders now.
You really should. So for example, flies and mosquitoes, these are some of the main prey items of a lot of spiders. And without spiders, a lot of these flies and mosquitoes, these disease carriers, would be a lot more abundant in our environment.
Are there actual uses for spiders? I know I've read that if you have a garden, you can order certain insects that will prey on the insects that are destroying your tomatoes or something.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Can you do that with spiders?
Well, yeah, spiders have been shown to have a significant impact in agroecosystems. So being able to reduce insect densities and abundances within these ecosystems, these agricultural systems, therefore reducing the need for pesticides to come in and lower the insect counts. Spiders are great bioindicators of ecosystem health. And so if you have them in your garden that you've been cultivating for years, it means you're doing something right.
Why are they the good indicators? Are they more susceptible to being killed by DDT and things like that?
Yeah, so spiders are just as susceptible as many insects to pesticides and insecticides, but spiders love to live where the insects are abundant. And so usually if you have a lot of diversity and a lot of flowering plants, especially native plants, within your garden or your habitat, there's going to be a lot of insects, a lot of pollinators, and a lot of insects use those plants for their own purposes. So because of that, you're going to have a lot of spiders.
I see.
And so it's sort of just a food chain there.
So that's one of their roles, one of their unique roles. Is there anything else particularly unique about spiders that's different from other species of insects?
So spiders actually aren't insects. They're actually arachnids. And so they're a completely different arthropod group.
So define arachnid for me.
Okay, so an arachnid is an organism that lives on land and has chelicerae. So these fangs that we think of with spiders, these puncturing, envenomating fangs that usually deliver venom into an insect.
I'm remembering why I didn't like them. Yeah.
And so spiders will have these chelicerae and these fangs, and they don't have things a lot of insects have, like 6 legs. Instead of 6, they have 8.
Yeah.
They don't have any antennae like insects have. They have 2 body segments instead of the 3 that insects have. So these are some main characteristics of a lot of arachnids.
And what about their lifestyle, basically? I mean, I know we understand about the webs and the funnels. What are some other unique things about them? So
spiders will build, of course, the web building, right? But not all spiders build webs. So there are some spiders, like our Myrmechiaphila friend, that burrows into the ground and builds a trapdoor. There are also spiders that you may have encountered, such as wolf spiders, that are very common and will just hunt down prey. There's jumping spiders that will pounce on the prey. There's even spiders this jumping spider within the genus Portia that is quite smart and can actually determine where they're going to attack a prey from and calculate angles and directions of attack. And they're actually spider hunting spiders.
Oh my gosh, this sounds like the raptors in Jurassic Park.
It's very much so like that.
So, so what got you interested in all this?
It's interesting. I used to not like spiders very much, but just because of the fear of the general public, I was sort of the same way. And what happened was I studied carnivorous plants with an advisor of mine at the University of North Florida.
So wait, you started with carnivorous plants and transitioned to spiders.
I did, yeah. So
Okay.
I like the creepy things,
I guess you do, yeah. How old were you when you were doing this?
I was around 20 years old. So
Okay, so you were in college.
I was in college,
okay,
yeah. So my advisor at University of North Florida, Dr. Anthony Rossi, invited me to work on carnivorous plants with him. And when I was studying these in the forest, I would notice that spiders would build webs over the entrance to these pitcher plants. So pitcher plants, they have a leaf that's shaped like a cup that fills with rainwater. The insects crawl in, and then they try to get these nectar, and then they fall into the water, and they become prey.
This is a real dog-eat-dog world.
It really is,
spiders,
isn't it?
yeah.
So spiders, I found, would build webs over the top of these pitcher plants.
Oh my gosh.
As if they're going to get the insects and stealing it from
Before the plant
plants.
does.
Yeah. This eventually became my dissertation topic as a grad student.
Okay.
And to do that, I had to know all the spiders.
So this is where all those weird dissertation topics come from,
That's
right?
right.
We graduate students who
That's
are
right.
discovering unusual things. So, so then you started looking at what initially with spiders?
Yeah, I started to look at all the spiders that were on these plants. And I found that one of the most common groups that I found on these plants were sheet web weaving spiders in the family Linniphiidae. Very tiny spiders that build these sheet webs. And so sometimes when you say wake up early in the morning and you look at your grass and there are these dewy sheets between the blades, those are sheet web weaving spiders. So those are the Linniphiidae spiders.
How many spiders are in that group?
It's the second largest group of spiders in the world. So by diversity, it is the second largest. So there are tens of thousands of sheet web spiders in the world.
Kinds of spiders.
Kinds, yeah, tens of thousands of kinds. So there's just a diversity. In fact, in North America, it is our most diverse family of spiders.
No kidding. And how many spiders are in my yard? That's what I want to know.
That's a great question. If you're in Indiana, we know that in Indiana we have approximately 650 or so species that exist in the state. So, yeah, somewhere around, I doubt you have all 650. That would be an amazing habitat.
I mean, what about just the number of them? I mean, is there a statistic if I take a square foot of dirt out of a typical yard in Indiana and I looked for tiny little spiders in there, how many would I find? Do you have any idea?
That's a great question.
Are they everywhere? I guess is my first question.
So spiders are pretty much ubiquitous. They're on almost every type of environment in the world. They're on every continent except Antarctica, and they exist in almost every type of biome that exists in the world.
So, so what's it like to go on one of these searches with you? Do you take students? And
I do take students.
yeah, so describe what this looks like.
Well, it really depends on what we're looking for. But oftentimes we go into forests because I study most spiders in eastern North America.
Yeah.
And in forests, we can use all types of techniques to capture spiders, from the classic sweep net that you see catching butterflies. We use that. We also use pitfall traps that we put a little cup in the ground and we fill it with preservative and come back after a week.
This is complicated. So you've got the plant making a trap and then the spider making a trap on the plant, and now you're coming along with a trap for the spider, right?
Yes, yeah. So these are basically cups, and they're called passive traps. So we'll just wait and see what we catch. But there's active collecting like the sweep netting, and also we use litter sifting as well, which is one of my favorites, where a lot of the sheet web weavers are living in the leaves in the forest, in the bottom of the forest floor. And so if you've ever walked in a forest, you'd know that there are lots of leaf litter built up on the ground. That is used very abundantly by sheet web weaving spiders to live and survive and reproduce. And so we take a bunch of those leaves and put it in a big funnel, and we shake it, and we just get a lot of the little organic critters coming out.
I see. So you're not crawling along on the ground with a magnifying glass.
No, I think that would take a little bit too long. But one of my favorite techniques is using a modified leaf blower.
Really?
that we flick and reverse into a vacuum.
And you suck them up.
And we suck them up, yep. We suck them up into we put a little baggie on the end, and we suck them up from these habitats. This is particularly good for wetland habitats.
I'll bet the spiders hate that.
They probably have no idea what's going on.
That's all the time we have for our program. Thank you to Dr. Milne for joining me today on Roundtable Perspective. I'm Tom Roach. See you next time.